doing? We're going to talk about attributes of this quadratic function. The first thing we're going to do is find domain and range. So for this one, we have the arrows. And for domain, you're looking at what x values you can put in. In this case, I'm going to call that a 3. So this equation would be y equals x minus 3 squared. So that's your function there. And if you're looking at all the x's you can put in there, it's going to be all real numbers. So because this continues on and on and on. So if you're looking at your x values, you can put any x in here. So you can write it as x belongs, you put a C with a line. Don't make an E, because that means something else. And do double R. But using interval notation, we're going to write negative infinity to infinity. Okay, so that is your domain. The problem with interval notation is you have to write that that's domain, because you don't know, you don't see the x. For example, we're not writing this. If you saw the x, you would know that that's the domain. But if you write it this way, you have to write out the word domain. Okay, for the range. Looking at the graph, and a lot of times when you get in higher and higher math, the only way you can find the range is actually look at the graph. Not always, but a lot of times. So we notice that on the range, when you're looking at the y-axis here, we're starting at 0. So the range as x is greater than 0 or equal to 0. But interval notation, you'd write it as 0. You'd do the bracket, comma, to infinity. And like we did last class. All right. X and y-intercepts. We do have an x-intercept here. So the x-intercept is going to be, you always put for the x-intercept, your y is 0, and then you put 3. Just by seeing the 0 here tells you that it's intercept. The y-intercept is when x is 0. So when x is 0, what's y? We want to know from here, there. Now from this graph, we know that this is y equals x minus 3 squared. So when we plug in 0, we're going to get y equals 0 minus 3 squared, which equals 9. So you plug in 9. So that's your y-intercept. And again, just by looking at it, if this has a 0 in the x spot, that by definition means y-intercept. Okay? We only have a minimum point. We're talking about points. We only have a minimum point, and that occurs at 3, 0, and increasing, decreasing. So at this point, this is your mid right here. Let's do increasing. It's increasing from 3 to infinity. All right. The reason you can't say it equals 3 is because at 3, that's a point. It's not increasing or decreasing. In fact, that's a minimum. So it's increasing from 3 to infinity, but decreasing from negative infinity to 3. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.